Hey guys, this is a lesson on how to have user input in your MakeCodeArcade games. So accepting user input in games is a great way to make interactive games in which players can name their characters or respond to questions posed by the game. In Arcade, the Ask for String with Text block allows developers to prompt users with a virtual keyboard to respond to their questions. In JavaScript, this function is just as easy to use, as you can see below here. You don't need to know this yet, but this is what the function looks like. Saving user input in variables is useful, as it allows the values the user inputs into the game to continue to exist rather than just being ignored. For example, if you want to save a user's name, you could save the user's name in a variable after they have told you what their name is with some user input. So I want you to look at the code below, identify what type of value is being returned in game.askForString, and then identify what giveMeData in the function call does. So we have let user input string equals game.askForString giveMeData. What does the value being returned by string, and what is the giveMeData part of the function doing? The game.askForString function prompts the user to input a string with the phrase giveMeData. Then the response the user gives is stored in the variable user input as a string. So let's look at what that looks like. I'm going to make a new program here. We're going to call it just user input example. Okay. Creating a new project. I'm going to use JavaScript. I'm going to copy and paste that code, and you can see game.askForString prompts a keyboard where the user can input data. In the title, it says giveMeData. That's because inside the quotes here in the parentheses, that's what I told it to write. So I could say anything in here. I could say anything. Now, nothing happens with that. I don't do anything with it. So why don't we continue on and let's do something with it. So here's the first task I want you to do. Start with the code from example 1, just like I showed you. Change the prompt to ask the user for their name, like by saying, what is your name? After asking for their name, use game.splash to display their name. Add a short message to the game.splash to appear before their name, such as hello. And then, if you want to challenge, why don't you ask the user for their favorite color as well? Respond with another game.splash that repeats their favorite color back to them. So let's look at what that looks like. So we have our code from example 1 up here. User input string. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. That looks better. GiveMeData was the original quote, but I want the new quote to say, what is your name? So I'm just going to, inside the quotes here, change that to what is your name? Now, if I did that right, when I press play, the new keyboard prompt should say, what is your name at the top, which it does. So perfect. After asking for their name, use game.splash to display their name. So I'm going to use game.splash, like so. Now, notice there's quotes that show up immediately when I use the splash function, but I don't want to use quotes. I want to use the variable we just created, which in this case is user input. And then end each line with the semicolon. Okay, so now, when it asks for what is your name, I'm going to type my name in. Click OK. And notice it splashes whatever I put in this case Sam, onto the screen. That's not very interesting. Let's add a little message. So maybe I wanted to say hello and then my name. So to do that, I need to add a string before my user input variable. So I'll put a little quote here, and then inside the quote, I'll say my message, hello, and then plus adds it to the string. So let's see if that worked. Type my name in one more time. Now it says hello and my name. So perfect. Easy code right there to display a simple welcome message with a variable that changes depending on what you type into your user input. So here's example 2. I want you to look at this code, identify how the response from game.string is being used now. Identify whether the response from the user is available to be used again. So in this case, I have game.splash I like plus game ask for a string, what food do you like? So how is the response from that game.askForString being used? And will it be available to use later? In this example, the response for game.askForString is being used without storing the result in a variable. So that means the result will be used in the splash screen, but it isn't saved, so it is inaccessible outside of this one splash screen. So it will not save this mango input. It will use it once and then throw it away. So second task, start with the code from that example 2, game.splash I like plus what food do you like. Add another line containing a game.splash, and in the new line, ask the user what they had for lunch and splash it to the screen. You don't need to store the variable, just add another splash screen to the same example. So that's my old code. Let's do the new code in there from example 2. So game.splash I like plus what food do you like? Which does this, just like in the GIF from the slides. What food do you like? I'm going to type in apple. I like apple. So it does not save this result because it just displays it in a simple string on the splash, and then it goes away. So let's do the same thing on a new line, ask the user what they want for lunch. So we're going to do the same code. And then we want to ask what you had for lunch. So if you want to just do that, game.askForString, what did you have for lunch? Question mark. And then at the end of your string, end the line with a semicolon. So now it asks 2 questions. What food do you like? I'll say banana. I like bananas. What did you have for lunch? We'll say pizza. Pizza. Now, that's not very interesting. Maybe we should make that into a sentence too. So to add some words in front of your variable that your food that you had for lunch is, you just add a quote like so. For lunch, you had plus that ask for string that we just added. So now both things should be included. Maybe I'll say cookies. I like cookies, that's for sure. I like cookies. What did you have for lunch? Maybe I had cake for lunch. So now it says, for lunch you had cake. Not very healthy, but delicious. Okay. So example 3 is called give me a word. Review the code below. identify how the prompt used relates to how the value is logged in the console. So now I have let animal, which is a string, equal game.askForString, give me an animal. So what is going to be displayed in the console log if I have, in quotes, Mary had a little plus animal? What will be displayed in the console log? Well, let's have a look. So I'll just copy and paste that code. So now if I click run, give me an animal. Let's say chicken. So now if I hit run, I can show the console simulator. Nothing is displayed on the screen because I'm running it in the console. Now it says Mary had a little chicken is what is displayed in the console. Is that what you guessed? Is that what you guessed would happen when we had this string like this? Hopefully. So here's your next task. Create a short story up to, you don't need to do all 5 sentences, but up to 5 sentences long. In each sentence, pick out 1 or 2 words that are important to the story. Remove those words from the sentence and replace them with a part of speech that relates to it. For example, if it's a noun or an adjective, so on. After you have chosen the words for each sentence, use game.askForString to prompt the user to give you words to replace the original with, and store each in a variable. After asking for all the words, create a string for each sentence with the words replaced. Use the console.log to print each sentence in order, and actually I'm going to splash them onto the screen. So let me show you what I mean. So step 1 is make a sentence. The sentence I chose was, my friend Bob told me their room was clean. I chose 2 words from that sentence. In this case, Bob and clean were both important, so I picked those words. And I replaced those words with name and adjective, because Bob is a name and clean is an adjective. So step 4, we want to prompt user to replace name and adjective. So that's 2 ask for strings. And we're going to store those in a variable. I named the name variable name1, the adjective variable adjective1. Then we create the sentence, which I call sentence 1. My friend, instead of typing the name, now I do name1. And then another quote told me their room was, and then instead of adjective, I'm typing the variable adjective, and then I end it with a period. And then finally, I splash it onto the screen. So let's see what happens when I do that. Okay, let's go back. So the first step, let's do prompt the user for a name. So give me a name is what it says. Then we prompt the user for an adjective. Give me an adjective. Okay, then we create a variable sentence1 where we have our sentence, and instead of a full quote, we replace name with name1 variable, and we replace adjective with adjective1 variable. Finally, we splash that sentence onto the screen, and let's see what that does. So it starts with give me a name. I'm going to say my name is Nick. And give me an adjective. I'm going to say the adjective was dirty this time. So now the sentence reads, my friend Nick told me their room was dirty. Notice it replaced the name with Nick, and it replaced the adjective with dirty. Now, make a few more sentences as an example. Replace the name1, adjective1, sentence1 variables with new variable names. Go ahead and type those down below and create your own sentence just to be creative here. Make a couple as an example, and it'd be good practice. Okay, so your assignment today is at the beginning of a game, any game, we want to ask the user for their name using a game.askForString. Then after asking for their name, use a game.splash to display the name in a short message. For a challenge extension, at the end of the game, use another game.splash to display their name again in a different short message. When you're complete, please submit your code on Canvas. So what do I want this code to look like? Here I have an example for you. Run this code. So at the beginning of your game, it should prompt the user for their name. What is your name? I'm going to say my name is Sam. So my game is Space Game. So my splash screen prompt says, welcome to Space Game, Sam, because I type Sam in as the variable. Now it displays my game, which is a simple asteroid game. This code for the asteroid game is in Canvas. Click on either the week at a glance. Any of those links will work, or you can click on assignments. This is called user input, MakeCodeArcade. You can copy and paste my space game code for yourself. At the end of the code, so after all the curly braces down at the bottom, that's where you can add game.askForString to prompt the user for their name, and then game.splash to display that prompt in a short message. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful. Email me if you have any questions on what to do.